Well, I learned very early that if you go to someone and ask them a direct question about something and you tell them that you're writing a book or you're writing a play, they sort of shut down. So I would sit at the front of my salon. It's a North Macon salon where a lot of the grand ladies of Macon come to get their hair done. And Mrs. Smith would come in and I would ask her, I said, Mrs. Smith, I was reading this article about Anjette and I was wondering if you knew anything about her. And she'd go, oh, no, I don't know anything about her. But my maid knows her maid and she told me, and that's how it started. So everyone in Macon had an Anjette story. All you had to do was ask. And pretty soon patterns started. I began to put patterns together of behavior and such things as she went to funerals as entertainment, which is a strange thing all in itself. But she really identified with funerals where it was a dead male figure, and so there'd be a wife or a daughter or a mother, and she identified with these women because back in the 50s, the female population only had a few days where she could really be queen for the day. And one of those was her wedding, the birth of a child, the death of her husband, or the death of her child. And she clung on to that as being the narcissistic person she was. She identified with that and sort of held that up as being something she looked forward to. I did a lot of research about sociopathic behavior, in, especially in women. And about 80% of all serial killers who are female usually do it with poison. And number two, most of them went through a traumatic experience earlier in their life, usually a molestation. So I allowed that to happen to her in the book. I just finished a book on Anjette. And there's always been a debate as to whether it was nurture or nature, as to how do people become able to kill, especially their child. I mean, when I wrote the play, there's a certain humor to killing your husband or killing your mother-in-law, but to kill a 9-year-old child takes a very special sociopathic mind that goes beyond any pale of the imagination into narcissistic behavior. And to me, Anjette was a perfect storm. She had all of these qualities. Now, many of us have those qualities, and there are people who are true sociopaths, many that are in the headlines today, but that doesn't mean that they will necessarily become a serial killer. But for Anjette, it was a series of situations that were put in place that caused her to act upon those narcissistic traits that she had and kill her first husband, which was easy, and she got away with it. And so she set up her second husband, because her first husband really didn't have any money. But her second husband, when people ask her, tell us about your new boyfriend, she go, well, he's tall, he's from Texas, and he's got great benefits. Now, who talks about the new love of your life as he has great benefits unless you have plans for those benefits? So, and she always went after people who were infirmed, and that way there would be no question as to when they died, as to how they died. They died because they had some previous illness. And it wasn't until there were 3 black women who worked in her restaurant that really brought her down, because they would watch her odd behavior with mixing poison in the kitchen part of the restaurant. And she did not give them the benefit of the doubt that they were smart enough to pick up on it. But they are the 3 women who brought her down. And they should be heralded as heroines in my story. And in the book that I've written, they are the heroines of my story, because they noticed and took action. And if it weren't for those 3 women, she may have gotten away with it the 4th time, and who knows, she may have gone on to kill more.
Can you explain the thing about the buttermilk again?
She, because she did not value these three black women. She began slipping and doing things in front of them that eventually was her demise. At one point, when she was poisoning her mother-in-law, she would bring a mason jar full of, she would get one of them to mix a mason jar full of buttermilk, and then she would take it to the bathroom with her purse. On the stand, the lead cook in the kitchen was asked to explain this, and she said, well, she took this buttermilk to the bathroom with her purse. What a person got to do with buttermilk in the bathroom? And she would come out and she would call it swishing it, swishing the buttermilk. And she said, that's when I knew something had to be did. And she wrote a letter to Anjette's in-laws, which ended up at the sheriff's office.